Hello, my loves. This is Maria, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. How are you? I missed you. If you're new here, please subscribe below for more videos like this one. Today, I felt we should chat about the higher self. I have a whole podcast that I am recording in the connection with my higher self. It's called Conversations with My Higher Self. I first connected with my higher self back in 2018 when I had my awakening. And since then, I have been building on that connection, and it has been one of the best feelings ever. And I figured today I'm going to give you a quick few just pointers on how you can amplify your connection with your own higher self. Your higher self is not only your main spirit guide, it is the number one entity in the whole wide world who gets you, who gets 1 billion% of you. I mean, obviously, outside of source consciousness and the great creator, creatress energy, those get you, obviously, but your higher self is the being with the same kind of bias as you are. And that is a blessing and a curse. And I don't mean that the bias in a limiting sense of the word. I mean that because you are a projection of your higher self has the same wants, the same deep desires, deep set desires and needs as you do on some level. Granted, we could have a conversation around how you borrowed a lot of your dreams and desires from society, and those are not always aligned with your higher self. But I'm talking about the things that make you truly you, the things that are like your personal North Star, like your mission, your purpose, all of those things. And so, higher self, I find that when you first start connecting with your higher self, this feels very fresh and new, and your higher self feels very lofty. Your higher self feels kind of omnipotent in some ways. And as like the little human, you perceive that your higher self is like this big entity, like kind of like over your head. And it feels a little intimidating for some people. I also know that once you start connecting with your higher self, it is one of the things that is recommended that you do is you invite the higher self into your body, right? So that first connection could happen. And once you first connect with your higher self, once your higher self enters into your physical vessel, into your physical space, that is the anchoring. The anchoring is a process by which your higher self is able to act through you in this limited time-space reality that we call planet Earth. And your higher self could share its resource through your vessel, right? So it is important to connect with your higher self. I find that a connection with a higher self works like a pillar of light. That's how I imagine it. And it's almost like you are living on the ground floor and your higher self is living in the penthouse. And then there's multiple layers between you. And it is actually really, really important for you to be able to get really comfortable with traveling up and down that elevator to access your higher levels of consciousness. In your non-awakened state, if you're just getting started, you're very used to just being on the ground floor. That is completely normal for you. That is your perception. That is your only point of perception. That is your only way of knowing yourself, if that makes sense, right? So you're very plugged into the matrix if you're just living on the first floor. That means that you recognize that the only reality that you see around you that you recognize that the reality that you see around you is the only version of reality that exists, which is a big, big, big fallacy. And how you know is that by starting to go through different stages of your awakening and connecting to your higher self, you would understand there's so many ways to perceive the happening, the soup of the happening of planet Earth, that it would blow your mind. There's like your perspective, your higher self perspective, and every iota of perspective in between that would become available to you. And it is a fascinating journey. Now, I find that vertical pillar of light, that connection point between you and your higher self, requires time to be developed. Initially, it feels like something you're going to have to build from scratch. And it actually goes both ways. Like, remember, your higher self, even if you haven't connected to your higher self, has been sitting there upstairs, stretching out its hands to try to connect to you, right? And it's been sending you all of these signs, sending you all of these messages. Now, whether you have been receiving those messages or not remains to be seen, right? And now, if you are doing the same thing only from downstairs, you're like reaching up, trying to connect to your higher self, whether that is through meditation, whether that is through automatic writing, whether that is through dreamscape, you could still reach out, right? Lucid dreaming. Eventually, this merge, this like the clasping of the hands is going to happen, right? And when that happened, that is that first point of connection. From there, you just really build upon it. Now, some of you that have not been able to achieve this point of connection, and I'm getting this actually question from the collective of how to connect. This was not supposed to be the episode about connecting to your higher self, but I will tell you that raising your own personal vibration as an incarnated human is going to optimize your chances of connecting to your higher self. That means eating more consciously, right? Like not like eating animal flesh, for instance, or fish, right, would bring your vibrations down. Drinking alcohol, gossip, and anytime you're unclean with your word, hanging out around people with very low vibration. Certain drugs actually lower your vibration. And I mean synthetic drugs, not plant medicines in this particular case, because plant medicines usually do the reverse. They don't lower your vibration, but synthetic drugs would do that. Adopting a daily practice where you're able to go within, such as a meditation, or at least starting with daily yoga flow, even if it's just for 10 minutes. All of those things are going to gradually help raise your vibration, right? Aligning and consuming the right kind of content, not a reality TV show, but a spiritual podcast. All of those things are building blocks on your way of connecting to your higher self. I also know of instances where a person was trying to connect with their higher self and asked them to enter into their vessel, and the higher self refused because the vessel was too dirty. If that, happens to you, then you're going to have to go through cleanse. Well, cleanses, multiple cleanses, physical, energetic, etc., right? But again, this is not what this episode is about. So once you start connecting with your higher self, there's this pillar of light that's being built. And in this pillar of light, it's almost like this pillar of light is a skyscraper, right? Going back to my earlier analogy, where your higher self is on the penthouse and you're on the ground floor. Being able to travel up and down that pillar, that penthouse, is paramount for you if you're looking for consistent guidance. The people who are always connected to their higher self, it doesn't mean that their higher self always dwells in their body. They're able to momentarily elevate themselves to the level of the higher self. So the practice that I really, really like is traveling up and down that pillar. This is something you can do a couple of times a day if you want. You may imagine that you're in an elevator going all the way up until you hit a particular elevation and you're, met. You're usually greeted by your higher self, like the doors of the elevator open, you walk out, and then there she is, or he is, or it is, and that's that. You could also imagine, you can just close your eyes and imagine that you're standing in this pillar of light that connects to your higher self. You can close your eyes and lift up, and like a certain light force is going to start sucking you up, and you're just going to go up, 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 and then again, at one point, you're going to hit a particular level of elevation where you're going to stop, and that's where your higher self is. And I find that like just going there, like elevating yourself there, and then having conversations with your higher self could be the most healing practice, because your higher self knows 100% at any given point in time, your 100% knows more about you than you do yourself. It knows where you are mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually, all of the above, and how to make it better for you, right? So those early conversations with your higher self are extremely enlightening. They can totally turn your life around, at a snap of a finger. It's so, so easy. And then you build upon that connection, right? And then that movement becomes twofold, right? Like your higher self can descend, you can ascend, or you can meet in the middle, right? And that state of perpetual connectedness to your higher self is blissful in its own right, because that is how you start being the vessel for all kinds of wisdom and all kinds of flow and all kinds of healing, by the way, and all kinds of codes for you to come through. I also wanted to give you this quick practice or exercise. So, I channel from my higher self. I write books. Also, I'm almost done with my second one, which is a series of 5 books. So I'm like, oh my God, and I create a lot of spiritual content for you guys. And I always, even when I'm not channeling, I want to make sure that the flow that comes through me is the most pure form that I could deliver for you, because the last thing this world needs is more pollution and more distortion in the energy field through whoever is doing the talking, right? God sees we have enough of that. And so it's actually, I make a point of connecting with my higher self, even if I'm not channeling. And I make a point of connecting with my higher self when I'm just writing or doing, and even in business, sometimes I would connect with my higher self if I am going through, like I'm pitching something really important, or let's say I'm at a sales meeting or I'm a public speaker. if I'm a public speaker, if I have to do a speech and I want to be really, really in tune, I find that connecting to my higher self in those moments and enables me to stay in such flow and be 10 times more impactful than I would as my lower self. So there's this quick exercise that I do. So I close my eyes and I imagine that my higher self is standing. So usually she's standing behind me actually. And then I imagine that my physical body, kind of like if that's my higher self, is merging with hers. And so we kind of become one, like one entity. But this is not it. And then I do like a full-on connection exercise. So I would usually start with the crown chakra. I find it easier to start finding that common ground with my higher self when I connect our higher chakras first. So the chakra to chakra connection is really, really important to me. Your higher self has chakras. Every single planet in the universe has the same chakras that you do, and even more so, I mean, like more than 7 chakras, but at least let's align our 7 chakras. So in the same way that you could connect with a planet, heart to heart by just taking the heart of Gaia and, your heart space and building a bridge between them. You can connect all of your energy centers with the energy of your higher self. And so you would embody more of your higher self while, being physically incarnated. And it's a very, very simple practice. So you start with the crown. So you merged the two, right? Like her light body. In this particular case, it's her because my higher self is female, and yours, your physical body. So like you put them together, and then you start from the very top, like right here at the crown center, and you imagine a figure 8 that connects your crown and her crown, or like your higher self's crown, like a figure 8, where one loop of that figure is you, and the other loop of that figure is your higher self. And then like once the figure 8 is established between your two chakras, then feel like I usually feel like I'm merging. And sometimes there's like even the sound that accompanies the merging. It's kind of cool. And then you would go down the chakra column, and the next thing you would align is your third eye. Once you align the third eye, it's really, really cool. You align it with the figure 8 as well, and then kind of like just merging the two. And then it feels like seeing with your higher self's eyes. Phenomenal. Like you would be able to like, by the way, even when I don't do the full connection, sometimes I just do the third eye to third eye connection with my higher self. And I'm able to see the circumstance that I'm living through under a whole new light. It's like so much wisdom opens up, and it's like being able to look at things from a higher perspective while being in the physical body, and like things become so crystal clear to you that everything happens for your benefit. And it may not seem that in the moment, but your higher self always also knows the why. And with the third eye connection comes the knowing, right? Not only would I perceive things differently, I would get a different set of like a different layer of knowledge and a different level of connection to the Akashic records as well through that. And so I go down, right? I usually go down. The next thing I connect is the throat area, again with a figure 8. Then I do the higher heart. It's not technically a chakra. If you look at the Hindu tradition, it's not one of the 7. But I usually do a loop between the higher heart. The higher heart is located in the thymus area, like the thymus gland. Google it if you don't know what thymus gland is. And so I connect those centers. Then I connect the heart, the solar plexus, the sacral, and the root. And that is the last figure 8 at the root. And oh my God, you guys, the moment you connect your root chakra with the root chakra of your higher self, you experience the craziest sensation of Shakti rising in your body. Like it's literally, you can call it Kundalini rising. I prefer to call it Shakti rising. It's just the energy rising up from your lower chakras to the higher chakras, and it's like literally like your physical body. It's just like, whoa, like what just happened? It's real. And you don't need to be on anything to experience that. You just need to connect all of your chakras of your higher self to you, top to bottom, and then you just experience the rising. And that energy is just pouring out of you in the myriad of like white, like in just an avalanche of white light and torrent. And it's just so beautiful. And, that's kind of the connection. And, that's what I do before I sit down to write, before I sit down to record videos for you guys. Sometimes I would also connect with the North Star if I'm doing something that I need to be incredibly aligned for. That is just a secondary connection to the universe. How do I connect with the North Star? I just, it's my third eye. I just imagine there's a North Star right in front of me, and I do this loop that connects the third eye of the North Star with my third eye. And again, it gives me just a better alignment to show up for you guys. And the reason I'm telling you all this is Because these little tools, these are very simple exercises, but they are going to make such a difference in how you show up, in how you feel, and how others feel about you. And it is above and beyond spiritual. Higher self connection and the benefits that you reap are not all esoteric in nature. They're not all like lofty, like let's ascend together type of situation. That is, yes, a byproduct of it, but that is just such a small morsel of why you would want to connect with your higher self. My higher self advises me on stuff all the time, whether I want her opinion or I don't at this point, because everybody has a perspective. I have my limited perspective sometimes, and I like keeping it. But my higher self, would navigate me away from it. So I guess also the disclaimer: be careful what you wish for, because a higher self connection goes both ways, right? Once you establish that pillar of light that connects you to your higher self, and then you're in the physical, minding your own business, like having a business meeting and whatnot, about to make a decision, and your higher self just like gets into your zone. It's like, no, girl, not the right call. Shouldn't be making that, or shouldn't be talking to that person this way, or whatever. Don't hire this, or don't pursue that business opportunity. So she's active in my life, is what I'm saying. But at the same time, it's a shortcut, right? Like, it's a shortcut that helps me avoid so many mistakes, and this connection is invaluable. Alrighty, and that's how I just told you way more about myself than I I ever wanted to. But I do this in the flow. Somebody needed to hear this. If you guys have questions for me or comments, please let me know below. I really like interacting and reading all of your comments, and I'm sending you a big virtual hug. Keep building upon that higher self connection. Do not give up if you feel it's not strong. Your higher self is always reaching out to you. He or she or it loves you so much, and I believe that you got this. Alrighty, guys, I will see you in the next one.